The readings for Sunday, January 1st. The Matins Gospel reading is from the book of John, chapter 20, verses 1 through 10. Now, the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb early, while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. Then she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Peter therefore went out, and the other disciple, and were going to the tomb. So they both ran together. And the other disciple outran Peter, and came to the tomb first. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen clothes lying there, yet he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. And he saw the linen clothes lying there, and the handkerchief that had been around his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but folded together in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, who came to the tomb first, went in also, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not know the scripture, that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again to their own homes. All right, some footnotes from the Orthodox Study Bible. For verse 1, the first day of the week is Sunday, or the Lord's Day. The remembrance of this day in Christian tradition does not replace the Sabbath, but completes it. Saturday still remains the Sabbath, the blessed day on which Christ rested in the tomb, just as he rested when he completed the creation of the universe in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. Because of the resurrection, Sunday is also known in the Church as the eighth day, which symbolizes eternity, a day without end. For verse 2, though John does not mention the other myrrh-bearing women, as noted in Mark chapter 16, verse 1, and Luke chapter 24, verse 10, Mary's use of we indicates that they were present. For verses 3 through 8, the response of Peter and John, or the other disciple, reveals each one's disposition. John reaching the tomb first indicates his faith is lofty and full of understanding, and indeed he is the first to have believed, as noted in verse 8. Peter's faith, on the other hand, is more direct and bold, shown by his immediate entrance into the tomb in verse 6. For verse 7, the details John gives away concerning the linen clothes confirm the resurrection. For if thieves have taken away Christ's body, as Mary initially thought in verse 2, they would not have taken the time to strip the body, nor to fold and place each piece carefully and separately. And for verse 9, the scripture had foretold Christ could not remain dead, as noted in Psalm chapter 15, verse 10. The epistle reading is from St. Paul's letter to the Colossians, chapter 8, verses 12. Beware, lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ. For in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete in him, who is the head of all principality and power. In him you are also circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, by putting off the body of the sins of the flesh, by the circumcision of Christ, buried with him in baptism, in which you also were raised with him through faith in the working of God, who raised him from the dead. And some footnotes from the Orthodox Study Bible. So for this exact passage, verses 8 through 12, it says that this passage is read on January 1st, the feast of the circumcision of Christ, which, of course, is today. For verse 8, the basic principles of the world include, number 1, the basic elements of matter, number 2, the laws that regulate the universe, including those conditioning fallen human life, such as death, sin, the flesh, and the Mosaic law. Number 3, the spirits who use these conditions to oppose Christ and are at the core of the pagan cults and systems of knowledge. And number 4, human traditions opposed to God's tradition. For verses 9 and 10, it says to see John chapter 1, verse 14. Do we need to rise through manifold levels of being to get to God? No. The incarnate Christ is fully God and fully man. He fulfills human nature, and all levels of being submit to him. Do we need to rise slowly through humanly conceived spiritual bureaucracy to God? No. We go directly through Christ, for he is the sovereign power, the head over angelic beings. And for verses 11 through 14, so a couple verses past what we read here today. Feel free to read on the rest in your own Bibles or apps to get the full context here. But yeah, for verses 11 through 14, do we need to perform man-made rituals and works in order to gain a hearing before the Redeemer? No. We come through God's work, holy baptism, to be joined to Christ. For Jesus Christ triumphs over the conditions of fallen existence, sin, death, the flesh, the law, and evil spirits, by his death and resurrection. In the Old Testament rite of circumcision, only a small piece of flesh is removed. In the circumcision of Christ, our baptism, we die to the flesh and live to God. The liturgical gospel reading is from the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 20 and 21, and verses 40 through 52. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, as it was told them. And when 8 days were completed for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Jesus, the name given by the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And the child grew and became strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was upon him. His parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover, and when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem according to the custom of the feast. When they had finished the days, as they returned, the boy Jesus lingered behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother did not know it, but supposing him to have been in the company, they went to a day's journey and sought him among their relatives and acquaintances. So when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem seeking him. Now, so it was that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Look, your father and I have sought you anxiously." And he said to them, "Why did you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my father's business?" But they did not understand the statement which he spoke to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject to them. But his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and men. All right. Once again, some footnotes here from the Orthodox Study Bible. So, first things first, this exact passage chapter 2, verses 20 and 21, and verses 40 through 52. It says that this passage is read on January 1st, the feast of the circumcision of Christ, which, of course, once again, is today. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll hit the individual footnotes now. So for verse 21, because Christ had come to perfectly fulfill the law, he received circumcision under the law. See the footnote on chapter 1, verses 59. In the Orthodox Church, it is ancient tradition to name a child 8 days after his birth with a special blessing. All right. For verse, let me see here. For verse 40, that Jesus grew and became strong in spirit does not imply that he was lacking divine perfection at any time. Rather, it indicates that in emptying himself and assuming human nature, as noted in Philippians chapter 2, verse 7, he freely subjected himself to human development and expression. And it says to see also verse 52. For verse 41, pilgrimages to Jerusalem on holy days, like Passover, were customary for Jews. Often entire clans or villages would travel together. For verse 46, in appearing to be lost for 3 days, Christ prefigures his rest in the tomb. For verse 48, Joseph is honored with the title Father for his care and upbringing of his adopted son. This title further prefigures our adoption by God, whom by grace we call Father, as noted in Galatians chapter 4, verses 4 through 7. For verses 49 through 51, Christ's eternal generation from the Father is divine, while his maternal ancestry is human. Accordingly, Jesus was first obedient to the will of his Father, and then is willfully subject to his mother and father. And for verse 52, it just says to see the footnote at chapter 2, verse 40. That's only one page back, so we'll go back and read that. That's fine. So the footnote for verse 40 is that Jesus grew strong. Oh, yep, we just read that. So that's going to put a wrap on today then, I guess. Is there any more footnotes? Nope. That's it. So that's it for today, everybody. Hope you have a blessed day and a blessed start to the brand new year, the civil new year, I should add. The holy calendar, of course, the new year is September 1st, because that's when the Byzantine and Roman empires for centuries had their new year. So that's when the church recognizes the new year is, September 1st. But nevertheless, the church baptizes all things that contain truth. And so any day that is set aside, liturgically or not, for us to kind of set goals and reflect on the past year and things of that nature, we can definitely adopt those things and partake if it means the betterment of us. So, yeah, I hope you guys all have a blessed 2023. Hope that you're able to double down on any spiritual efforts you had in 2022. Church attendance, spiritual reading, hours of prayer, amount of almsgiving, whatever it may be. I hope that you guys can double it or some amount of increase throughout the next year, 2023. And as always, I would just ask that you pray for me, a sinner. And we'll catch you back here tomorrow. Take care.